Okay, I'm going to talk about X-linked inheritance or sex-linked genes, which means that it matters if you're a boy or a girl because you inherit in a different pattern. So far, everything we've talked about, the big A's and little a's, big P's and little p's, has all been autosomal genes. That means genes located on the chromosomes that are numbered. So, chromosome number 2, chromosome 21, chromosome number 14. Now remember, we have 2 copies of each chromosome, right? One from your mom, she gave you 1 chromosome number 1, and one from your dad, he gave you 1 chromosome number 1. When we get to the sex-linked genes, we're looking at X's and Y's, because this is the difference between, at least in humans, the difference between boys and girls. And if you remember, girls have 2 X's. Let's take a look at this. So to be a girl, you're XX. Just get this going real quick. Okay, so here's a girl. Okay, she's XX. And we'll do them individually. Okay. And what's a boy? A boy is going to be XY, right? For a human male. Get a new one. Okay, so we have a female and a male, right? And you can see that they share some genes, right? The genes on the X chromosome, those are going to be the ones they share. They don't share the genes on the Y chromosome, just the males have those. Y chromosome, it turns out, just has genes that are mostly for making boys boys. We say it encodes for maleness, things like the testosterone SRY gene that turns on the testosterone pathway and things like that. The X chromosome, on the other hand, has a lot of different genes on it. That's where your clotting factor genes are. When they're broken, you get hemophilia. That's where your red-green photoreceptor genes are for your eye. When they're broken, you get red-green color blindness. So we have a number of genes on the X chromosomes. I don't know if you remember in the picture, I don't have it here, but the X chromosome was much, much larger than the Y chromosome. That's in chapter 9.20. So the thing is that the Y chromosome doesn't have the same genes that the X does. So what this means in the end is that girls and boys have different patterns of inheritance. If we have a gene A, okay, and we'll just do capital A for right now, I'm going to make it smaller. Our gene A, in our girls, the way we'll write it, we're going to say on the X chromosome we have an A, a big A, and her other X chromosome she'll have a big A as well. Okay? And then we'll put a big A on the boy too. So they all have the same X. You notice I did not put anything on the Y. I should never see any letters on your Ys. We're only talking about X-linked inheritance in this class in regards to sex-linked. So remember, the Y doesn't have the A gene on it. The A gene is only on the X chromosome, so the Y stays blank. And this is where the difference happens. So let's say our big A, we'll define this, encodes for disease. No disease. And that means our little a is the disease. So let's just say hemophilia. I'll call this normal. Okay. So hemophilia and normal. So these are both going to be normal, right? Because they have big A's. The female has 2 and the male has 1. So that's one scenario. Another scenario we can have for females is 1 big A, 1 little a, right? A heterozygote. You'll notice she's still normal because she has a big A. Now males, on the other hand, can't have a mixed bag. They cannot be heterozygous because they only have 1 copy of the gene. If the male gets a little a, he has hemophilia. He doesn't have a chance to cover it up like mom did, see, or like the girl, his sister. She has a copy of the gene, the hemophilia allele, but she also has a functional copy, so she's okay. She's a carrier. She carries the hemophilia without showing it. The boy can't cover it up because if he gets any little a, he has hemophilia. He has to, because he has no other A gene to cover it up. So this is why the males get it so much more frequently than the females. And I'll show you a little Punnett square for that. So here's the kind of options. So since the male has whatever he gets, big A, he doesn't have it. He gets a little a, he does. This is recessively inherited. He's going to get it more frequently. So if we have a mom who's homozygous dominant, we're using R this time, and a dad who's affected, so this dad has hemophilia, let's say, okay? So dad can make a sperm that has the hemophilia X, or he can make a Y. So you see those separated, right? So some of his sperm will be Y and some will have the X. The ones that have the X have the hemophilia allele on it. The mom will make all X big R normal eggs. And you can see here when we make the Punnett square, we see that all of our kids are normal, right? If we look at just the girls, 100% are normal and 100% are heterozygous, which means X big R, X little r. So that means they are carriers. And that makes sense, right? Because in order to be a girl, you have to get 2 X's. Obviously, you got one from your mom, but you had to get the one from the dad in order to be a girl. And so if dad has the hemophilia allele, then all his daughters will have it. They have to, because they had to get his X. On the other hand, the sons, you see that they are normal. They got their Y from their dad to make them a boy. So sons always get their X's from their moms. So in this case, mom has 2 normal copies, so all the sons will be normal. Here's another scenario. Now we have dad who's normal and mom who's normal. But then they find they have a hemophiliac son. So this tells us that the mother must be a carrier, which is what we're showing here. She is a heterozygote, big R, little r. So she can make big R eggs or X little r eggs. And the father can make X big R sperm or Y sperm. So you see the girls here, even if they get mom's bad allele, mom's hemophilia allele, they still have dad's good allele to cover it up. So they look normal. All the females look normal. Half of those females will, or it's a 50% chance that the female will be a carrier. But they all look normal phenotypically. If you look at the boys, they got their Y from their dad, and they got one of the 2 X's from their mom. If they got the good copy, they're normal. If they got the bad copy, then they have hemophilia. They don't have a chance like their sisters would to cover it up with a big R because they only have 1 X. So this is mostly what happens. You have carrier mothers who pass it on to their sons, and it would keep passing through carriers. This is sort of the scenario you have in your royal pedigree situation, where you have people like Queen Victoria, who passes it to some of her sons, who pass it to some of their daughters, their daughters who pass it to some of their sons. And it kind of keeps going. Then we have a situation, this is how you get an affected female. This is rare. This would be where you have 2 families that have hemophilia, let's say. So the dad would actually have it. The mom would have had a dad with it or a mother that was a carrier. In any case, she'd have it on her side of the family. He'd have it on his side of the family, and he'd have it. And then you could get the 2 little R's, one from the carrier mother and one from the affected father coming together to make a hemophiliac girl. But this is rare because the little R allele, the X little r, is very rare in the population. So we don't run into this very frequently. So that's why the boys only have 1 shot at getting the normal allele, the big A, big R. And so when they get the little one, then they have the trait or the disease. Also, males can never be carriers for X-linked recessive traits, right? To be a carrier, that means you have to hide the little allele. They can never hide their little allele. They can't hide the little a because that's the only thing they have. So the only way to hide something is to be like a heterozygote like this, like a female. But the males can't do that because they only have 1 copy. So that is basically about the sex-linked, particularly X-linked disorders, to help you understand that here. So here's a little bit of the pedigree that you have filling out on your royal pedigree. Here's our carriers, our half-shaded. They look normal, but we know that they have one copy of the allele because eventually it comes out in their son. So you can see it got passed down from mother to mother to mother, all carriers and normal, and then it came up and you could see it in Alexis, this guy right here, little kid. He was a hemophiliac. Okay, I hope that's helped. We'll talk about this more in class. I just wanted to give you a primer on it.